What's going on, guys? This is the Talking Sports Podcast with Adam and Alec. This is episode 22. Today we'll be recapping Super Bowl 56, which took place this past Sunday between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. It was a great game, a Super Bowl that will definitely be remembered forever. The Rams ended up coming out on top, 23-20. So, what are your first thoughts of the game, Alec?
First, obviously, that was the heck of a game that we all expected to be really close, hard fought, and it turned out to be just that. Uh, there were explosive plays. There were also plays that you thought there'd be a flag, but there never was. All in all, probably one of the better Super Bowls the past couple years. I think definitely better than last year because last year was kind of a lopsided win, but this year is a very well played Super Bowl. Overall, the playoffs as a whole were also the best playoffs we've seen in recent years. It's great to see Matt Stafford get his first Super Bowl and Joe Burrow also getting his first Super Bowl at such a young age. Both mentioned before, they were both number one picks, two completely career paths, both meeting up in the Super Bowl. It's nice to see that. Kind of a bright spot in that Super Bowl is Odell Beckham Jr. in his first Super Bowl, the first quarter and a half he played. He actually contributed quite a bit. Kind of like, hey, this is what I have been, but I wasn't utilized in Cincinnati. Or Cleveland, sorry. So, it's nice to see Odell Beckham kind of back to his New York Giant days where he's actually being utilized to his abilities.
Yeah, I agree. When we had Coach Barakoff on a couple weeks ago, we talked about Odell and the impact he's made on this team. And I 100% agree with you. You could see how explosive he was and how you couldn't leave him one-on-one. As you saw, he scored the first touchdown. It was a one-on-one ball, and he just mossed the guy. You hate to see what happened to him too. He tore his ACL in the middle of the second quarter. It was just like a crossing route, and the worst kinds of injuries are the non-contact injuries. His knee buckled or something and it popped, and you just hate to see it, especially in the biggest stage, the biggest game of his career right there, and he gets injured. The same knee that he injured, what was it, a year and a half ago, something like that. So prayers, and hopefully that Odell, this isn't too serious and that he can come back and bounce back from that injury.
Yeah, and we mentioned a couple weeks leading up to this game is you're obviously going to double team Cooper. That's going to leave Odell Beckham one-on-one, and sure enough, he did what everyone thought he would do in single coverage.
Yeah.
So, the offense before the injury, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but very dangerous, I guess, to the secondary. And then after the injury, you could see how different that offense was. They didn't really have a great number two option. So definitely Odell. Hopefully he gets a speedy recovery. Might see him back next year just being on his recovery. But if everyone returns, this team could break some records next year.
Yeah, definitely. Going through some of the stats, like you talked about Stafford, first time playing in the Super Bowl for both of these quarterbacks. Obviously Stafford, who's been in the terrible Detroit Lions the last 10 years or whatever. He finally gets away from Detroit and leads the Rams to the Super Bowl. Finally gets the right guys around him, the right coaching staff. And really, he played a great game. He threw for 283, 3 touchdowns. His last drive was incredible, how he led the team down the field for that final touchdown. He did have 2 interceptions. One of them was not his fault. We'll talk about it here a little bit. But it was right after halftime. The receiver dropped it, got tipped up, intercepted. The first one, it was just threw it up to the end zone. It's kind of just like a 50-50 ball, and Jesse Bates made a great play. So, tip your hat to the defense on that one. I wouldn't call either of those Stafford's fault. Kupp, who was a Super Bowl MVP, had 8 receptions for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. And if I had to guess, he probably had at least 5 of those receptions on the last drive.
For sure. Yeah. Leading up to the fourth quarter, he had kind of a quiet game. And then that last drive is really when it just force fed them the whole way down the field. It seemed like every play was to Cooper Cup all the way down, drew one or two flags on the drive, and ended up getting the touchdown on Eli Apple. So a great final drive for LA to win the Super Bowl. That's kind of what you dream about as a kid, and even in Matt Stafford's case, that last 2 minutes of the game, driving down, getting the game-winning touchdown. That's every kid's dream.
Yeah, that last drive was really something special. Um, but the play I think of, you think of the Cup touchdown, but the play I think of was they got stopped to 4th and 1. It was 4th and 1. They were like midfield. They could run the ball up the middle with Akers, but what do? They get the ball to their best player, Cup. They run a jet sweep on 4th and 1 and end up getting the first down with Cup. But that was I thought it was brilliant by the Rams. Get the ball to your best player. And I think more teams need to do that, is get the ball when it matters the most, not just then, but all the time. Get the ball to your best player,
Right.
and that's how you win games. And that's how the Rams had just won the Super Bowl.
And not to take away from Rams, but that's kind of what San Francisco did this playoff run. They found a way to get Devo involved every single play. So obviously, you have that guy on your team, feed him, force feed him, get him as many touches as you can. It's like in basketball when you have your best player putting up 25 shots a game because he's that good.
Yeah.
Just find a way to get the ball in that guy's hands. I mean, we talk a lot about the LA Rams side of the ball. Let's talk about Cincinnati a little bit. Overall, really good game by Burrow. First half, his O-line was able to keep him clean, which is one of the things we talked about. They need to do that. Second half, the Rams came out in a little bit of a different look defensively, and they ended up sacking Burrow 7 times. And I'm pretty sure 6 of those were in the second half.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you make of the offensive line being so successful in the first half compared to the second half?
I honestly think they just got wore down. We kind of talked about it when we were the last couple of weeks when we've been previewing this game, is that the Bengals had 2 weeks to prepare for this Rams team. It's not like a normal week when you play 6 days later. They had an extra week to prepare and scheme up for the Rams defense, which I think they did a great job of that in the first half. And really the whole game. I mean, just the O-line's been bad the whole year, and we knew they were going to choke at some point. But they were schemed up well. The game was 13-10 at half. Rams are winning. They got that interception, that Bates interception. They were making plays to stay in the game. Obviously the O-line turned out to be the weakness of the second half, and really towards the last drive when they got stopped because of the O-line. But I think a big part of that was just how they were ready to play. They were schemed. Obviously knowing the huge task that they were up against Von Miller and Aaron Donald, which we'll talk about them later, about how dominant they were towards the end of the game. But really, Cincinnati, I thought, played a great game. Burrow throwing 263 for a touchdown. Joe Mixon, 72 yards. He threw a touchdown as well, which that's pretty fun to see in the Super Bowl. Higgins and Chase had great games. Higgins had 4 receptions for 100 yards and 2 tutties. Obviously, one of them came on the controversial should have been a face mask call, but that was like 60 of his yards. But I really thought, offense, both sides of the ball, they played a great game. They played good on defense. Like you were talking about when Odell went down, the Rams for the next quarter and a half literally didn't do anything. And give credit to the Bengals defense for showing up, making plays, making Stafford uncomfortable. They found a way to kind of slow down Cup until the end, obviously. But I could say the only real disappointment for Cincinnati, and I know Cincinnati fans would agree, is Eli Apple. He was pretty bad. What'd you think about Eli Apple?
Oh Lord, he was getting he was having a day on Twitter, that's for sure. Kansas City fans were going at the guy. Yeah, everyone was going right at Eli Apple. Not a great game. Not good, but
Now, to give him a little bit of credit, he was going up against the league's best receiver, but you can't get torched like that in the Super Bowl without getting some hate for it, you know?
and one of the things I wanted to point out, that last drive for Cincinnati started out with that long reception to Jamar Chase, and then you get, was it 3rd and 1 at first?
Yeah.
You know, they had P. Ryan in the game at that point. Why would you not leave Mixon in the game when he's going off for 15 carries, 72 yards? I mean, you need a yard, you got 2 plays to get it. I'd rather Mixon, who has proven he can get a yard or 2 in this game, because he was having a game in the second half for sure. But instead they brought P. Ryan in. What is your take on that?
This was a questionable decision, I guess you could say. Mixon is their third down back, so short yardage and third downs, Mixon is always in the game. So that could have been it. That's probably what it was. But like you said, Mixon had such a great game, 70 yards off 15. I can't remember. It was like 15 carries or something like that. But against a great Rams defense, he'd had a great game. So a lot of people have been wondering why. I would say probably just because P. Ryan is their third down go-to running back. Another thing about that I want to point out is if you go back to the very first drive of the game for the Bengals, they got stopped on 4th and 1. But if you go back, they were in the same situation. It was 3rd and 1, and P. Ryan was in the game. They ran the ball, got no yards. And then 4th down, they threw it, incomplete pass, gave the ball back to the Rams. So it's kind of interesting to think about how their first drive and their last drive ended the exact same way.
Right. That's just insane. Like, I know P. Ryan's been your third down back all year long, but when you have the Super Bowl on the line and you look at the numbers, P. Ryan 2 carries, total 0 yards, Mixon 15 for 72. And you see how Mixon was gashed in the defense that second half. I don't know. I would have gone with Mixon, but again, I'm not getting paid to coach, so I can't.
And to add on that, I love Mixon and I love P. Ryan, both former OU guys. Love those guys, but no matter who's in the game, they're not getting the first down. If you watch how Aaron Donald dominated the guard on that play, he literally bench pressed him into the A gap and made the play. So no matter who's in the game, he's not getting the first down, and I'll stand by that. Aaron Donald was incredible on that last drive. We all know Samaje Perine's huge, and he obviously bench pressed the center and then held Perine from reaching out and getting the first down. It was just an incredible play, those last 2 plays of the game by Donald to win the game.
Yeah, and talking about the Cincinnati receivers, I kind of had that hot take of Jamar Chase, 150 and 2 touchdowns. He didn't do it. T. Higgins went off for 102 touchdowns, though. Jamar Chase, 89 yards. They had a really successful game against this secondary of the Rams that, you figured to be Chase versus Ramsey the whole game, but Ramsey kind of switched up between Chase and Higgins.
Yeah.
So what's your take on Ramsey? And don't talk about the face mask on the first play of the second half.
I honestly think, as a corner in the league, you're going to get burnt no matter if you're the best. We all know Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in the NFL right now, and that didn't change, even though he got burnt a couple of times. Who hasn't got burnt by Jamar Chase this season?
Right.
No one's been able to guard him. But when I think about Ramsey, I think about, you have the couple plays where he gets burnt and stuff, but I think about the play. I think it was the Bengals' second drive. No, that was the one they scored. It was the one where they kicked the field goal. They threw a ball to, I can't remember. I think it was Higgins, actually. They threw the ball to Higgins and he kind of had it. And then Ramsey deflected it out on the half-yard line.
Yeah.
It would have been a touchdown, but I think of that play that Ramsey made, and that was huge. So I mean, I think Ramsey did fine. A lot of people were saying how he had a bad game. He didn't have his best game. I wouldn't say that, but playing in the biggest game of your life, Um, but I thought Ramsey had a good game. He made plays when he needed to. Besides those one or two times, and you talk about the controversial should have been called face mask. That was over half of the yards that he gave up in the game right there. So I thought Ramsey was fine.
Yeah, speaking of controversial flags, I mean, we talked about it before this, them not throwing any flags basically the first 3.5 quarters. And then that final drive, it seems like everyone had a flag to throw. I mean, some of them, yeah, was a flag. Others we mentioned wasn't, like that Logan Wilson play on Cooper Cup. That was just clean defense. I don't know what else to say about that. It's kind of frustrating to see a flag get thrown in that situation when that could have determined the ball game right there.
Yeah, man. Normally, it seems like in the NFL this season, you're either getting a game where there's 400 flags thrown, obviously an exaggeration, but a billion flags thrown, and then you turn on the 3 o'clock game, the 12 o'clock game, there's a flag thrown every play. You turn on the 3 o'clock game, and there's three flags thrown in the whole game. It's just seemed like the officiating's been so inconsistent this season, and I don't know what's the cause of that. Just different refs and stuff. But like you were talking about, it seemed like a clean game because there was no flags called. It wasn't really a clean game because there was a lot of no calls that should have been called, like you were saying. But then for them to call that crucial holding call on Wilson on Cup there on the last drive, because that was 3rd and goal, that play. And then that obviously that holding call gave the Rams a first down, 1st and goal, and then obviously the rest is history. The Rams scoring and winning the Super Bowl. So I mean, I was fine with it. With I guess not with the last call, but with the refs being consistently bad the whole game. Like if you're gonna be bad, just be consistently bad. And don't make the calls. Don't make if you're not gonna make every single call, don't make any of them. Just be consistent. And I feel like they were both sides of the ball. Or for both teams, they were consistent until that last drive, like you were saying. So what do you think about so kind of talking about the score, I guess. So at halftime, we're sitting at 13-10. And then we come out from the second half, great halftime show. We get like a 50, 60-yard bomb, first play of the game to Higgins. That was the face mask play that didn't get called. But then boom, Bengals strike.
Yeah, and then the interception from Stafford. Right there, I kind of felt like the game could have been decided if Cincinnati went down and put up 6, but instead they settled for a field goal. And that might have been the thing that saved the Rams in this game. Because at that point, it was 20-13 at that point.
Yes, with the field goal. It was 17-10 after when the interception happened. It was 17-13, sorry.
Yeah, so, and if they would have got a touchdown on that drive, it would have been 24-13. Been a whole lot more difficult for LA to come back from that than 20-13. So, I mean, right there's a key drive in the game. So, LA's defense they stood up and they needed to. And that's what we've been talking about this whole season, really, college and in NFL. Defense wins championships, and they proved it.
That's right. Yeah, that stop was huge and kind of calming everybody down. 2 straight plays had gone negatively in the Rams' favor, And I think that's a big thing on the experience and leadership of guys like Stafford and guys like Aaron Donald, who have played a ton of games, and their coaches for saying, hey, guys, we're fine. Just play our game. We're going to be fine. Just do the things that we've talked about, we've practiced that we need to do to win this game, and we're going to be just fine. They never wavered, They never thought that they weren't going to win the game. And you could see that confidence in them, even through their struggles throughout the game, which that's just something cool to see, how they didn't give up. Even when they were down, they made that stop, and then that ended up changing the whole game.
Yeah, just amazing defense by the Rams. And coming into the game, there's talks about Aaron Donald maybe retiring if he won the Super Bowl. And then at the parade, he said, if we can get everyone back, let's run it back. So that kind of points towards him coming back next year, which is insane because the dude's a scary defensive lineman. He's so good at what he does. And Von Miller, free agent, I think, this year. So if he comes back, you got Aaron Donald there and Jalen Ramsey. You had them half a year this year. You have them a full year next year. That's insane to think about.
Donald and Lawrence Taylor are the two greatest defensive football players, but really two of the greatest football players ever play the game. And finally, Donald gets his ring. So, good for him. And I think they're going to all be back and try and run this back and win it again. But looking at the dominance of the Rams defense, like we've been talking about, like you said, 7 sacks the Bengals O-line gave up. 4 of those sacks came from Aaron Donald and Von Miller. They both had 2 each. So those guys really picked it up. Von Miller, obviously a former Super Bowl MVP. He won a Super Bowl back in 2015 with the Broncos. So he's been in this game before. He knows what it's like, and he made some clutch plays to kind of get them sparked and get them going. And they started getting after Burrow and that O-line.
Yeah, looking at these two teams, they're definitely 2 teams that you could see back in the Super Bowl. I think LA, you lean towards the better chances of coming back. And Cincinnati, I mean, they're young. They had a good year, but like we mentioned last week's episode, they had a lot of close games that could have gone either way. I mean, they could have won a couple more. They could have lost, I think, 4 more that they ended up winning.
Yeah.
So it's the rare case of a team being good but not good at the same time, if you know what I mean. Like all the close games next year, they could be a 6-11 team because of that. And it's so weird thinking about that after this.
And just thinking of the craziness of how the Bengals got here. They obviously, wild card, they had the game-winning interception, divisional walk-off field goal, and then championship walk-off field goal. It's just been a crazy ride, this whole playoffs for everyone, but especially for Cincinnati to get there again for the first time in forever, it seems like. But one thing that they've got to fix if they want to take that next step and become champions is they've got to fix that offensive line. We've said it many times. We've talked about it every time we've talked about Cincinnati. The O-line is the problem of this team, and it ended up causing them in the biggest part of the game. We already talked about the last 2 plays of the game, Aaron Donald stopping P. Ryan on that third and 1, and then the 4th and 1, he just destroyed the guard and then hit Burrow as he's about to throw it. And if you went back and watched that play, Jamar Chase was wide open down the field. Yeah. If Burrow would have just had more time, they win the game. So they got to fix the O-line, giving up 7 sacks in the Super Bowl. Honestly, I didn't think Joe Burrow was going to make it out of the game alive. As we saw, I think it was the middle of the 3rd quarter, he went down and took forever to get up. And we find out he ended up spraining his MCL. I think that's what it was.
The dude is a competitor, that's for sure. He gets hit hard, but he comes back up and he competes. He's got that dog mentality of hit me harder. He's gonna get up every time and battling through a sprained MCL. Obviously, he's hurting bad the next probably couple of weeks. But the dude's competitor coming back after that. And he didn't have a terrible game after that. It's just he didn't have time after that. I don't think he really dropped off in his production. I think it's just his offensive line wasn't good enough where he could get the ball out accurately in time.
You could definitely see the offensive line was slowly wearing down as the game started going into the 4th quarter, and then it just fully collapsed the last couple of drives as Burrow had no time. He was getting hit, sacked, causing bad plays to happen, incompletions. And but like you said, Joe Burrow's a competitor, and I definitely think this Bengals team could be back back in the Super Bowl again. I just think the draft for them starts offensive linemen. That's all they got to focus on if they want to take that next step.
Try to get some in the free agency market too. I
Yeah,
don't know if there's
definitely.
any big name OLs out there, but trade packages, you need offensive line in a bad way. I mean, crap, the Rams had who's the old was it Whitworth?
Whitworth, yes.
Yeah, the dude's what 41, 42.
Yeah, he's in his 40s.
He's still a really good offensive lineman. So they're out there, you just need to go get them.
That was another player that was cool to see him win a ring. Obviously, as he's been playing for 20 years or however long it's been, he's in his 40s. He's also the Walter Payton Man of the Year for this season, which is one of the highest awards for an NFL player. And he started his career as a Cincinnati Bengal also. So it's kind of cool to see he plays his former team in the Super Bowl, and then he finally wins, gets the ring. So good for him. Congrats on the Walter Payton Man of the Year also to him. But it's cool to see him win that. I think he probably will retire if I had to guess,
For sure.
because he's getting up there, and why not go out after winning your ring finally,
And I think a person even cooler, I guess, to win that is Eric Weddle.
Yes.
Came back in the playoffs. He tore his pec in two different spots in the first quarter when he was tackling. He was tackling Mixon, wasn't he?
Yeah.
A flat pass. Yeah. So to play 3.5 quarters almost on a torn pec, and he still had a lot of production that game. Let's see if we can get his stats real quick. Weddle. So he had 5 total tackles, 4 solos. I mean, he is productive, especially coming back just for the postseason.
Yeah, I remember reading something on him, how throughout this whole playoffs, he's been like one of the big leaders especially in the secondary, but on the defense. I'm pretty sure he led the team in tackles throughout the postseason. And then that's just a cool story. Like you said, tore his pec, and he knew this was his last game. So he was not going to miss any of it, take every second in of his last game being in the Super Bowl. And that's a great way to go out, playing through that injury, and just some great players on the Rams, that have been great for a long time, and deserve this win for sure.
And if we're talking, to keep talking about the storylines within the Super Bowl, beforehand we mentioned Van Jefferson, who had 4 catches for 23 yards. He wins the Super Bowl, and immediately after, he has a kid, or his wife has a kid, like right after the Super Bowl. So he goes from winning it straight to the emergency room as a kid. I mean, the dude had an insane 8-hour period.
Talk about probably the best day of your life right there, right?
Yeah, it's insane, all the little stories coming out of the Super Bowl. Plus, we had the halftime show, which is probably one of the better halftime shows in recent history.
Yes, it definitely was. It lived up to its hype, definitely. And,
Overall,
I guess, well, we're talking about the Rams still and then winning the Super Bowl. Sean McVay, come on. He's the man behind all this, really. Without McVay, they're getting nowhere. Obviously, he's not out there playing, but just he has such a brilliant football mind, and he's a great coach, and he's totally turned the Rams around ever since he's gotten there. And I got a lot of respect for him. I think he's a really great coach in everything that he does. So, props to him and his coaching staff for getting this done. And it's pretty cool to see.
overall, Super Bowl 56 lived up to the hype. This postseason lived up to the hype. Before we wrap it up, early Super Bowl prediction for next year.
Oh,
Top of your head.
oh man.
Obviously, you think Dallas in the NFC.
Man, I don't even know if I could do that now. Obviously, I want my Cowboys to get there. That's what my heart wants. I don't know if it'll happen, but I hope. Probably, I'm going to say Bills out of the AFC. I'm gonna
Bill.
take the Bills. I'll take the Bills. Bills Cowboys. That'll be a fun Super Bowl.
Let's
That's
see.
that's what my heart says, but realistically, probably Bills Rams. I think the Rams could get back there again.
Yeah, I think the Rams start out as a favorite in the NFC, especially if everyone returns. So I'll go the Rams in the NFC. Do I want to make a bold one in the AFC? It's in Arizona next year, right?
Yeah.
So the streak of teams playing in the Super Bowl in their backyard is going to end because Cardinals won't make it. They're having turmoil right now with Kyler.
Yes, they are.
AFC. I don't see Cincinnati coming back next year. Kansas City has some issues right now. Buffalo is the easy choice. I'll go the Chargers.
Chargers, okay.
Chargers have a pretty good team. I think LA Super Bowl in Arizona.
All right. That's a bold prediction, I'd say.
Maybe Rams Chargers. I like that.
LA. That would be actually kind of cool.
That would be insane. Too bad it wasn't this year. That'd be even crazier.
Both in their home stadium.
Something we missed, the award winners. I don't think we talked on that. Aaron Rodgers winning the MVP over
Yes,
Cooper Kupp,
yes.
but Cooper Kupp was the offensive player of the year. Weird how you could win one and not the other, I guess.
Yeah. They just couldn't give both to one person, I guess. So, but Cup got the one that really matters, the Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
My man Micah Parsons won Defensive Rookie of the Year. He should have won Defensive Player of the Year, but that went to TJ Watt. But next year, Mike is going to win that.
Outstanding. TJ Watt had an outstanding year. Give credit to that guy. And then I'm sure Chase won the Offensive Rookie, right?
Yes, Chase was Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I figured he would. Is there any other awards we're missing? Comeback player?
Comeback was obviously Joe Burrow.
Yes, I forgot about that.
That's all the main ones. And then Walter Payton was Andrew Whitworth of the Rams.
Yep. What a year.
Yeah, it's been an incredible football season. That's all I'll say, man.
So many close games throughout the year. I want to look at how many games were decided by one possession or less. Because I feel
if you look at that through the whole season, there's going to be a ton.
I feel like this year was a lot closer than past years.
Throughout the playoffs too. The playoffs were this is some of the craziest playoffs we've ever seen.
Right. I think this is definitely the best year in recent history.
Definitely.
As far as competitiveness goes. And hopefully it just keeps getting better and better because so many teams have a good quarterback now. I mean, every team in the AFC that made the playoffs besides Pittsburgh is returning their starter. Maybe not Tennessee. We'll see about them.
Yeah.
In the NFC, I don't see Garoppolo going back. Rodgers is a wild card. Brady says he's retired. He also says he's thinking about coming back. I don't know. There's a lot of questionable quarterback situations in the NFC, so we'll see though.
Yeah, man, it was a great football season, and that kind of wraps us up for the night, doesn't it?
I think so.
Well, again, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast. Let us know if you'd like to come on as a guest. We'd love to have you on throughout any of our episodes coming up here in the near future. Just because football's over doesn't mean we're stopping. We're going to continue and start breaking down baseball, hopefully, if the MLB ever gets its act together and we can have a season. Also with NBA and college basketball with March Madness coming up. So still a lot of exciting things in sports to talk about. And we'll be here every week bringing you the latest news.
Yes, sir.